Hello, everybody. Are you ready for back to school boot camp? This is week 2, and we are going to be talking about the antidote to the letter of the week problem. So I'm going to pop in and ask you, what is the problem with the letter of the week? Okay, so everybody can share what their experience is, whether they are a preschool or a kindergarten teacher or a special education teacher trying to catch kids up. Or maybe a first grade teacher who is trying to review and you're told to do 1 or 2 letters every other day. What's the problem with that, okay? This is Reading Simplified, and my name is Marnie Ginsberg, and we're in the middle of a series, a 4-week series of Back to School Boot Camp. We're talking about beginning of the school year problems that you have that are instructional related to reading. And these are very common problems for beginning readers or struggling readers. Last week we talked about blending problems and how to solve that. So if you encountered some blending troubles and you want to have a solution that works for everybody, check out the videos here in previous Facebook feeds, or look at readingsimplified.com, and some of my most recent posts talk about that blending problem. But today we're going to talk about what's the problem with the letter of the week, okay? So let me know. We've got 2 Dianes here. Hi, welcome to both of you. One I know well and one not as well. So I'm glad you're here. Do you guys see a problem with the letter of the week? Or maybe your reading program doesn't say do it 1 letter per week. Maybe it drips out letters 1 every other day or 1 a day. What does the typical reading program that you use look like, and what are some of the problems? I'd love to hear from you so that we come up with a solution to the problems that you're actually facing. Now, I have some thoughts about what is the inefficiency of letter of the week, but I'd love to hear from you. So let me know if you have seen the letter of the week type of a curriculum before and what the problem might be. Okay, so this is there for anyone who's popping in either now or later. And I'm going to share this to a group that that I share with, called Level Up Your Reader's Achievement. And then we'll see if we have any problems that you guys have found. And if not, we'll dive right into the antidote. Are you ready? Are you in the US? Did you see the eclipse yesterday? I'm sharing this, and then we'll start talking about the solutions, okay? We've had a big, exciting time here in the US with that eclipse. So that's what everybody's talking about. Okay, so that is shared out, and we'll share also to my members at the Reading Simplified Academy, and then we'll be ready to go. Does anybody have an answer to that question there that's along the bottom of the screen? Do you have an answer, or do you have what is the problem when you encounter the letter of the week? Okay, well, everybody's shy right now, so it has to be just me. It's so much more fun if it's interactive, but you know, I don't mind just talking. So here's the problem. Number 1, it takes forever. Right? How many of you have experienced that? You get into November and you still haven't taught all of the letter sounds in the alphabet. You're not even close. It may not be January until you see the promised land of reading real words. And historically, that might have been fine for kindergarten. But today, with the press to get our kids reading in kindergarten, or in that first year, where if you teach in an international school or an international community, whatever that first year is, there's a lot of pressure to get those kids reading. And so 1 letter a week is just so slow. Now, the other problem with it is that it's done in isolation. In other words, you learn M, mom, M, mat, M, macaroni. You just play with the M at the beginning of the word, and maybe you see it in the context of a word, but then you maybe write it all by itself on a dry erase board, or maybe you write it in sand, or maybe you make Play-Doh with it. And that isolation doesn't make sense to some kids, particularly those who have limited literacy backgrounds. They don't know what that those funny squiggly lines where you're doing and or saying the letter M. What does that have to do with the books that my teacher's reading? I don't get this connection because they just don't have that background, or they may have weak phonemic awareness. So if you have weak phonemic awareness, in other words, the perception of the individual sounds and words, then you don't really see how or the letter M, when the teacher says that, how does that relate to the words I'm saying, mom and mat and macaroni? You don't make the connection, or you don't make it as tightly as we really need to be able to be good readers. And the entree to becoming a good reader is perceiving those sounds, or that phonemic awareness, particularly starting out with phonemic segmentation. So when things are in isolation and you don't work with a whole word, don't separate out the sounds in mom or map, but you just work at the beginning of the word over and over again, you are missing out on a lot of opportunities, particularly, again, for the ones with limited experience or weak phonemic awareness. And the other big issue is just that it keeps us away from reading real books as soon as we can, because you'll find that with some other techniques, like with the ones I'm going to show you today, you can get kids back into books or straight into books a lot more quickly than you might have otherwise planned, and a lot faster than you would have normally see. So those are some of the problems with Letter of the Week. I bet you guys can come up with more, but I'm going to say goodbye to that and just start talking about the solution. This is the antidote for you. I would propose to you, if you're starting kindergarten, to do this very lesson with several groups of children the first day. They may not know any letter sounds, and that's okay, because guess what? We are going to do a multiple choice problem. There's only 3 letter sounds they have to choose from, and that makes the burden a lot easier. And then the context of what you do as a teacher in that small group or in the whole group, but my best suggestion is to do this in a small group, that when you put these sounds together in the context of a real word, the students will make a lot more connections with literacy. They'll make a lot more phonemic awareness gains, that perception of sounds, and they'll learn these letter sounds more quickly. Okay, so let's give it a try. The first thing you do as a teacher is you say, we are going to build the word map. Like I use a map to get from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And when I need to travel, I'm going to need a map, okay? Girls and boys, will you help me to figure out what the first sound you hear when I say map? And so at first, before you even worry about the letters sounds, those spellings, you're trying to first get them to segment, phonemically segment. It's that auditory processing, the phonemic awareness that they need to be able to pull those sounds apart in the word map. And this one's the easiest one to pull apart, to pull out the from the rest of map. So you encourage them to say all by itself, And if they can't do it, and you really exaggerate it, well, I hear right here, what do you hear? And I say map. Eventually, some of them will get it. If not, then you say, you model it. Well, this is So that's step number 1, isolating the first sound. The second step is, okay, now that we know we're looking for I'm going to ask you, boys and girls, which one of these do you think is Now, you may think, well, my kids, I haven't taught them this yet. They don't know it. I did an assessment and they did not know it. That's okay, because you are there in a small group, and if they don't get it right, you just correct them, and they'll get it right soon. Because in the context of real words, everything will make a lot more sense. And they know that if they can't get it immediately, you'll be there to help them. So say the little child says, I don't know. Well, then you say, well, this is Pull it down and say So the child would do Now, what is going to happen to your kids that don't know the letter sounds? What do you think will most likely happen? Maybe they'll do this, right? Will you see that? No problem. It's really no big deal. They isolated the we got the phonemic segmentation going. They don't know that picture or the spelling for So you just tell them, well, actually, this is, so it's a teaching moment. And you can either say, which one of these do you think is or you can just tell them, this is So So pull that down and say So they do this kinesthetic action and pulling this down, say Great. So you found the first sound in the word map. Now let's listen to this sound in the word map. And notice I really elongate and exaggerate the but I connect it. I don't separate the sounds for them unless I needed to as a last resort, because I want my students to develop that skill of phonemic segmentation, separating the words themselves. So that's the next step. After they've segmented the first and found the spelling that matches it, then they need to find the second sound. What do you hear here when I say map? So this is the hardest one for them to segment. If they can't do this and you elongate and exaggerate, look at my mouth, map, and they still can't do it, which sometimes happens, especially with our young one, then say, well, I hear here in map, always connecting it back to the word. I hear here in map. Which one of these do you think is And just a minute ago, you told them this was puh, so they may very well figure this out, right? And if not, then if they pull this down, you say, oh, actually, that's puh. What do you think is And then they figure it out. And so they pull it down, and what do? They say So they have, you said it several times, they're reinforcing it with their own mouth. So it's auditory, it's kinesthetic, and these lines show a visual cue for that abstract concept of individual sounds. And then the last sound is the easiest. So after all that hard work, there's only one picture or spelling left, plus it's a lot easier to segment that last sound, okay? So let's listen, boys and girls, for the last sound in map. And I really pop it. I don't want to say map, because there's no at the end of mappa. Okay, we said p, and the child comes up with p. They first segment, then their next step is, is this p? Yes, pull it down and say p. Okay, so look, girls or boys and girls, you built the word map. Tell me each sound by itself. So now we get another reinforcement of the segmenting ability, and we get another reinforcement of looking at each picture or spelling and associating it with a sound. And if they can't do it, then you just kind of repeat it. Well, remember, you built the word map. So what do we hear at the beginning of map? And then they do the segmenting again. Great job, you guys. You built the word map. This is a great day in kindergarten, isn't it? Did you know that you're going to be able to read and write words from the first day? And that actually is how it happens. Guess what? Then you add in another letter, maybe that very day, like mat. And then you could make pat. And you might even add in a letter like the letter S. And you could make sat and sap and sam. And you just keep working, building some very basic 3-sound words with this set of letter sounds, a small set that are high frequency. In other words, are going to show up a lot in a lot of words. And they also are going to use these two to begin as many words as possible, because those are continuant consonants. You can just stretch them out forever. App. And that way the student can segment it more easily. If you start with one of these to make like tap, it's a lot harder for them to really separate that when they're first starting. So that is how this activity works. We call it build it. If you have seen some of the things we've been teaching recently with Reading Simplified, we put a lot of energy into switch it, which would mean to change map to sap and sap to sat and sat to sit and so on and so forth. But that is just slightly more advanced than those kids who don't know any letter sounds. This will work with your kids who don't know any letter sounds at all. Don't wait and give them a worksheet or a flashcard or a letter on the board and do the letter of the week. Don't just give them one thing to learn in isolation. Connect it to real words with sounds so they see how sounds and print work together, which is really, you are giving them the concept of the alphabetic principle, which is the concept that Our language is a written code for sounds. A, p are the sounds in map. That is how simple Build It is. And if you look in this post, you'll find a link to an article I wrote about Build It, and there's also some videos there of little kids doing this activity. And you can download a word list that is perfectly made for beginning kids. They will start with a lot of these continuous consonants. So you build the word map, and you build the word sat, and fat, and mop, and words that start with those easy to segment off the first of the word consonants, and you gradually, and actually not gradually compared to traditional instruction, pretty rapidly you unfold in new letter sounds every day. So thank you, Jolie. So if this is what I would try to aim for this on the first day. And if we had any success, what might happen? Even with some of our students who have the least exposure to literacy, they will probably pick up at least one, probably two letter sounds. Many kids will pick up almost all of them at some level of consciousness. They'll need maybe a little review tomorrow, but on Wednesday, if this was 3 days in, on the third day, most kids would have all of these already. So the day 2, I would already be adding in another vowel. And you want to push the vowels as fast as possible because those are really what unlock a lot of our words. High frequency consonants and high frequency vowels, adding one or more a day as your group is able to handle it. And what you're looking at, what does it mean to be able to handle it? You're looking at, are they learning the letter sounds? That's huge. But even more importantly, are they learning to segment? Can they hear that this is ah, p? And if they can't, that's what you really need to work on and exaggerate those sounds. Well, I hear, let's say we had this early on. We were just building the word mop, okay? And you want the student to first tell you the sound that you hear. What sound do we hear when I say mop? I kind of push the sound, I elongate it, but all of my sounds are connected. I do not isolate them for the student unless we're kind of not getting anywhere. Okay? So that is really the biggest thing you need to work on early on, even though a lot of curriculums really press letter sound recognition. And yes, it's super important. Obviously, if you don't recognize these, you can't read. But really the entree to this is phonemic segmentation, the ability to take a word like sun and hear that it's s-a-n. And this activity is tailor-made for doing that, but also learning to recognize these letter sounds. And that's how you save time. You save time because you don't have to create 5 different activities, one for phonemic segmentation, one for left to right tracking, one for the consonants, one for the short vowels, one for decoding, one for spelling. You do not have to create those different activities, nor do you have to take that much instructional time for those 6 or more activities. Rather, you set up simply one activity, and so it's a lot less planning time, and then your instructional time is very efficient. It's cut down dramatically. A lot of beginning kindergarten programs will tell you to spend 10 to 15 minutes in oral-only phonemic awareness, even though the National Reading Panel in the U.S. said that students learn faster or learn better when phonemic awareness and phonics instruction is integrated. And that's been my experience over and over again as a reading tutor for the last 20 years as well. So when you're doing this activity, Build It, you're saving so much time. And then they will, within several weeks, they will know all the short vowels and all the consonants. Or they'll know enough of them that you can move into long vowels. And it's not going to be hard for them. So do you guys have any questions about this antidote? Ooh, there we go. This solution to the letter of the week. And if you have seen, problems with using the letter of the week, I would love to hear what you have to say. Or we've got different types of audiences here. Have you used this, and how has it surprised you as compared to what traditional or mainstream instruction? I know I'm throwing a lot of questions at you. It's because I know you're coming from all different places. We have people who are familiar with Build It, mop, And then people who would just be starting out with a letter of the week. Let's make a P, a P out of Play-Doh, and let's write it in the sand. Those things are useful, and they, especially for independent activities. I don't mean to poo-poo that. But as far as your instruction in small groups where you expect to see really quick change and a lot of information learned, then try build it with 3 sound words using high-frequency consonants, folding in 1 or 2 short vowels as you can, and you will see your students take off. So I don't see that we have any questions, so I think I'm going to tune out any minute now. But if you have a question after the fact, please let me know. I'll be tracking this and responding in the comments. And finally, if you want to know how this activity fits into the 3 most important activities that we use here at Reading Simplified, there is a link to sign up for a free workshop I'm hosting. We call it 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. That's all that it is. This activity segues really easily into Switch It, which is one of those 3 activities that make up literally 80% of my instruction as a reading tutor and what I recommend for classroom teachers, homeschool parents as well. We don't have to create hundreds of activities and be underwater with all of our creation, nor do we have to take as many hours of planning of instructional time with everything in isolation. But when we integrate several things at once: letter sound instruction, phonemic awareness, left to right tracking, vocabulary, decoding, spelling, then we are super efficient and kids become readers much more quickly. So Diane says she has used it and the kids pick it up so quickly. Next week she will start again with 2 homeschool first grade students, and she's excited to do this again. Okay, so those first grade homeschool students may or may not know their letter sounds, and if they don't, she would probably start with this very same thing, build it, and soon after they know about 5 or 6 letter sounds, and they can segment them, saying ah, p, or at least some of the time they can do it, then she would probably move from build it to switch it. Map, we need to switch it to mop. And that really forces the child to develop even higher levels of phonemic awareness, and then they also learn more quickly how to discriminate among those short vowels. Oh, one doesn't know her letter sounds. Okay, great. So you'll really put this into play next week. That's awesome. I look forward to hearing how that goes. If you think that this activity can save you time, it can probably save a friend time, tag a friend or share this to your Facebook feed and invite them to come to that workshop. It's been very exciting to hear what people have said about the workshop. What I'm doing is teaching just those 3 activities that are the bulk of the reading instruction that move kids along rapidly. And one teacher went to a workshop I did about 2 weeks ago on Friday, and Saturday she went into the clinic where she was working with kids who are very frustrated. She's had 30 minutes and she said they were already turned around and excited about reading because she had unlocked something for them by connecting sounds and symbols with a few simple activities. So she's not alone, but she was kind of remarkable in that she took action. But a lot of teachers have told me how excited they are about the idea of saving so much time and then moving kids along rapidly. So please consider inviting your friends to that workshop. It should be fun and very informative. Thank you, Tina. And thanks for being here. And I will keep answering your questions or comments if they come in later. Thank you.